He almost laughed when he heard the shout. Almost. The street was quiet, the kind of expensive quiet that money buys. The mansion stood tall behind iron gates, freshly purchased, freshly renovated, and meant to be his new beginning. Porters had called it a bold investment. His friends had called it a statement. But as he stepped toward the front door, a voice cracked through the silence. Don't go in that house. It wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. It was desperate. He turned and saw a thin boy near the sidewalk, clothes worn, shoes mismatched, eyes wide with urgency. The kind of kid most people learn not to see. Millionaire almost dismissed him. But something in the boy's expression wasn't random fear. It was recognition. And that was what made him freeze. The boy wasn't warning him about danger. It was warning him about something that had already happened. The millionaire lowered his hand from the door handle. For the first time since buying the property, doubt crept in. The house had been empty for years before he purchased it. At least that's what the paperwork said. The previous owner had vanished overseas, the listing agent claimed. Simple transaction. Clean history. But the boy took a step forward, shaking his head. It's not empty, he whispered. Security approached to move the boy away, but the millionaire stopped. He walked closer instead. Up close, he saw that the boy wasn't trembling from cold. He was trembling from memory. What do you mean? The millionaire asked quietly. The boy glanced at the mansion as if it could hear him. It keeps people, he said. It doesn't let them leave the same. The words hit harder than they should have. The millionaire was a rational man. He built his empire on logic, numbers, and contracts. Yet something about the stillness of the house felt heavier now. The windows reflected the sky like blank eyes. Watching. Waiting. He looked back at the boy. How do you know that? The boy hesitated. Then he said something that made the air feel thin. Because my mother went inside. The millionaire felt a chill crawl up his spine. The deal suddenly felt less like an investment and more like a mistake. And for the first time in years, the man who feared nothing hesitated to open his own front door. The gates were closed, but the story had already begun. The millionaire invited the boy to speak before anyone forced him away. The security team exchanged confused glances, but their boss rarely showed hesitation. Today was different. Today he listened. The boy explained that his mother had worked as a housekeeper for the previous owner. She had told him the mansion felt wrong from the start. Rooms that echoed too long. Doors that locked on their own. Basement no one talked about. One evening, she had gone in for a late shift and never came back. The police had written it off as abandonment. The landlord insisted she had quit. There were no cameras, no witnesses, no proof. Just silence. The millionaire felt irritation rise. He didn't believe in superstition, but he did believe in liability. He called his assistant and demanded the full file again. Every inspection report, every transfer document, every recorded detail about the prior ownership. Minutes later, standing on the driveway, he skimmed through digital records on his tablet. Clean inspections, renovation permits, structural approvals. Nothing alarming, yet something bothered him. There were no maintenance logs before the sale, no consistent employment records, no long-term staff history. It was as if the house operated without people. He looked at the boy again. Why warn me? The boy swallowed. Because when people go in alone, the house changes them. They come out, quiet. Or they don't come out. The millionaire felt an unfamiliar weight settle in his chest. He had built skyscrapers, negotiated billion-dollar contracts. He didn't fear walls and paint. The boy's eyes weren't lying. Instead of entering, he made an unexpected decision. He told his security to remain outside. Then he turned to the boy. Show me. The boy's face shifted from fear to disbelief. You believe me? The millionaire didn't answer directly. He simply said, if there's something wrong with my house, I want to see it before it sees me. The front door creaked open. The air inside felt colder than the evening outside. Not physically colder, heavier. As they stepped into the grand foyer, the chandelier flickered once, and then the door behind them closed on its own. Inside, the silence pressed against them. The mansion was immaculate. Marble floors polished, paint untouched, furniture staged perfectly. It looked like a luxury magazine spread. Yet something felt staged beyond design. Precise. Too arranged. The boy refused to walk past the main hallway. It's down there, he said, pointing toward a narrow corridor leading to a staircase. That's where she went. The millionaire felt irritation return, mixed with stubborn pride. He had paid for this property, not be intimidated inside his own walls. He walked toward the corridor, every step echoing louder than it should. Halfway down, his phone lost signal. At the staircase, he paused. The air felt dense. He noticed scratch marks near the basement door, subtle, almost sanded over, as if someone had tried to remove them but failed. He opened the basement door slowly. The smell hit first. Not decay, not mold. Something metallic and sharp. The lights below flickered faintly. The boy stayed at the top of the stairs. I can't go down, the boy whispered. The millionaire descended alone. Each step creaked under his weight. At the bottom, he saw unfinished concrete walls, storage boxes, and at the far corner, something covered by a heavy tarp. His heart pounded despite himself. He pulled the tarp back. Underneath was not something supernatural. It was worse. Files, dozens of them, personal belongings, wallets, Ds, employment contracts, jewelry, items belonging to people who had worked here, including a name tag with the boy's mother's name on it. The millionaire felt anger rise. Not fear, anger. This wasn't a haunted house, this was a hidden crime. Footsteps suddenly echoed above him. He looked up the stairs and realized the boy was gone, and the basement door began to close. The millionaire sprinted up the stairs before the door shut completely. He shoved it open, breathing hard, heart racing, not from ghosts, but from realization. The house wasn't cursed. It had been used to hide evidence, used to silence people who had no power. Workers, staff, individuals. No one would look for long enough. He rushed to the foyer. The boy stood near the entrance, pale but steady. "You saw it," he said. The millionaire nodded slowly. His voice was tight. This house wasn't empty. It was covered up. Boy's eyes filled, not with fear now, but validation. For years, no one had listened. No one had cared. He had shouted at strangers moving in before, but no one stopped. They laughed. They ignored him. This time, someone had opened the door and looked. Sirens soon filled the street. The millionaire had already called authorities from his car outside. He refused to let the house swallow more silence. Investigators flooded the property. It was secured. Names were cross-checked. Cold cases reopened. The boy stood beside the men who had once intended to celebrate his purchase that evening. "You saved me," the millionaire said quietly. The boy shook his head. "No, you listened." The mansion would no longer be a symbol of wealth. It would become a symbol of exposure, and as the cameras rolled the next morning, the story spread fast. A homeless boy's warning had uncovered a buried truth. The millionaire announced he would fund the investigations and support families affected, but what stayed with him wasn't the headlines. It was the moment he froze at the door, the moment he chose to listen to a voice most people would ignore. And sometimes, the greatest discoveries don't happen when you walk into a house, they happen when you stop and pay attention to who is trying to keep you out.